Hello everyone, I'm Ryan Hayashi. Welcome back to my studio, Hayashi Dojo in Mannheim, where I teach people magic and the martial arts. This video, I'm not going to be showing any of my magic routines. Instead, I'm going to be talking about how and where I learned magic. I have received some messages from fans and magicians who have reached out to me and started chatting with me. Inevitably, they always ask what my background is, how I learned magic, where. So here's my story, my journey in the art of magic. I started magic in 1981 when I was 8 years old, as measured by Earth years. Those of you who have been following me over the last 2 decades do know that I age in a rather irregular, semi-immortal fashion, but that's Asian genetics combined with broccoli and blueberries. But when I was 8 years old, I got a magic set for Christmas from my Uncle Michael. Love the guy, thanks Uncle Mike. And I just never stopped playing with the stuff, you know. I just, over like years, never stopped playing with these small props and routines and just never stopped playing with them. And then by the age of 10, 11, and 12, I was reading every magic book I could get my hands on, because we are talking about the 80s. This is before I had even heard of instructional videos, VHS, never mind DVD, books, library, every magic book I could get my hands on, bookstores, bought every magic book I saw, progressed from beginner's books on basics to more advanced material, just a lot of books, read books. And I had never met another magician literally in my life till the age of 20. So growing up as a kid in school, 12, 13, 14 years old, as a teenager, hanging out with friends, age 16, 17, I always had a deck of cards in my pocket and I was always showing card effects. As a university student, age 19, 20, it only took about 2 years for everybody at my university in Ottawa, Canada, to remember me as the magic guy. And at age 20, I met another magician my age, another student who was into magic, who showed some store-bought magic effects involving props that I'd never seen before. It impressed me, blew me away. I still remember what it was. I won't say, but it was some very visual coin magic. And it was an eye-opener, made me realize there's a whole world of magic out there I had not yet seen or discovered, just sitting alone by myself with books and a deck of cards. Then I left my home country, Canada, in 1998. I was 25, as measured in Earth years. Moved to Tokyo, Japan. Was training at the world headquarters school for the JKA, Japan Karate Association, under the world's top masters. Working as an English teacher to making a living and pay for my food and apartment and finance my karate journey. And then I met my first karate club in Tokyo, Japan. The star performer of that club in 1998 was a Japanese fellow who I believe is only 3 years younger than me, by the name of Shoot Ogawa. Now, if you're heavily into magic and you can remember 20 years ago, Shoot Ogawa is a tremendous performer. We're very close in age, but when I first met him, I was 25 or 26. He would have been 22, 23. And I was invited to the club because a member of the magic club was my English student, invited me to the club. I met Shoot, we were near the same age. He said, "Oh, so you're a magician?" I said, "Yeah." Pulls out a deck, says, "Show me." And me being the loud, funny, alpha Asian guy that basically I am now, just, whatever, in my mid-20s, I started showing off, being the man, and hey, I'm funny, and then he just gave me this blank stare, took the deck of cards and blew me away technically, just 100 levels above where I was. Pulls out the coins, does mind-bending stuff, just really hurt my brain. I mean, if I were, there's no other way to describe it. I was just in awe because I had never seen magic live look that awesome. He was fantastic. He is fantastic. He's a genius in magic. So we hung out during the 2 years I was living in Tokyo. I consider him one of my first live mentor. I did learn a lot about magic from him. his teacher and his club, they had an excellent group. And my other mentors at that time, starting in 1998 and 99, were on VHS instructional cassette videotapes. I learned from Max Maven through these publications, Michael Amar, Daryl, David Roth, Harry Lorraine, Aldo Colombini, and I just bought all the tapes I could get my hands on, huge library. Because they were expensive, they cost me like the equivalent of $50 a piece 20 some years ago. They cost a lot, so I watched each video 100 times, tried to learn literally every effect on every video, pick the best half, train the heck out of it, and tried to hone it to perfection. And just through repetition, I learned a lot. Now, here's the other thing. For those who are watching this far, who are actually interested in how I developed my magic and pushed it to the next level, working in Japan as an English teacher was a huge benefit because I started every class, every English lesson by showing off a piece of magic. The level of English in Japan was, at that time, 20 years ago, and is still lower than other countries. They didn't speak English very well, which forced me to keep the speaking to a minimum, visual effects to the point, bang, every day for 2 years. That was training camp. Then I moved here to Germany 20 years ago, or 19 and a half, in the year 2000. And, well, time flies. Then I came into contact with the MZVD, Magische Zirkel von Deutschland, which is the national body for organized magic in Germany. It's in English, the German Magic Circle, the Magic Circle of Germany. 2001 was my very first convention in my life. The first time I had been in a room with more than like 20 magicians in my life. And I also entered the first competition in my life. I entered in 4 different categories because I didn't understand the rules. I was in card magic, micro magic, comedy magic, and I picked another one, probably general magic, because I didn't even know what they were. Somebody explained to me on that day, a few hours before I went on. I cut it down to the 1 category, card magic, had some, unique ideas, and managed to win a prize. Now here I have to explain the German system is actually unique in the world. They do consistently produce very good magicians. With all due respect to other countries, there's several countries that produce very good magicians. Germany is one of them for a good reason. They have an excellent structure in place. Every 3 years, there's a cycle. So the first year of the cycle, they have the preliminary eliminations to enter the German nationals, to qualify for entry. In German called the Vorentscheidung. 1 year later, they have the German national championships. A year later, they have the world championships. And just in the last 3 cycles, in the last 9 years, they've expanded that so that they have the European Continental Championships the same year as the nationals. So you've got the preliminary eliminations, the German nationals, the European championships, and then the world championships held every 3 years. That's pretty solid. And now that I've been doing it for 20 years, I know that the average competitor invests a minimum of 2 to 3 years preparation time before competing at the first level. It must be a German or European thing. You don't get guys who just sign up 2 months before and see what happens. It's just the attitude in Germany. They take it seriously. They train hard. Minimum 2 years, and that's on the short end of it. Most of them 3 years work, working with dance coaches, projection, speech, movement, theatrical direction. In German, Regie, guys who clean up theater, musical productions, engineers who build the props. Huge investment, money, time, energy, effort, and the expectation for those who enter the preliminaries is to try to make it to the German nationals. The guys who make it that far, they want to make it to the European or World Championships. So, these are guys who've been working on their act for 3 years and want to push it into the next 3-year cycle. So, 2001, I entered and won a prize just because I had some really cool ideas in my act at the time. Card act. 2002, I entered the German Nationals for the first time. Did not even place. I was up against stronger, experienced performers. Me, as a young guy in my 20s, I was in a tuxedo. Just because I had it stuck in my head from the 80s and 90s, that's what a magician wears. The other guys had, some sense of style. So I didn't qualify. I didn't win a prize at the German Nationals 2002. And in 2003, I went full kamikaze and I said, all right, we're going to do it again in the next 3-year cycle, but we're going to do it hardcore. In 2003, I entered the Swiss, Austrian, Italian, and British Macmillan national championships, 4 different countries, national championships, and won first place in all 4 of them. Just because I put a lot more practice and training into my act. In each country's language. So I slaughtered Switzerland, Austria, Italy, and then the England, the British, they called it the International Magic Macmillan competition because they had competitors from other European countries. Anyway, went there, did my thing, and managed to win first place. And I was following the most basic theory that if you can't defeat a country, you have to systematically kill off all its neighbors so that there's nothing friendly around it. And that's literally what I did. As insane as it sounds, ancient military strategy, that's what I did. I just killed off all of its neighbors. And then I reached the end of the year because the British Macmillan, or the International Macmillan Championships in London, were end of the year, like Christmas time, December 2003. 2004, I wasn't done yet. I hit the French National Championships doing my act in French. It was my first time in the country. My French wasn't even that good in those days. Invested like 2 months of nonstop memorization work to make it happen. I came back and re-entered the Macmillan Championships the following year just to see what would happen if I hit them twice in a row with 2 different acts. And now I have to talk about the Matrix because in 2003 at the Macmillan, I saw a beautiful Matrix performed by a magician by the name of Armando Lucero. Shudogawa as well did beautiful Matrix work. I did some work on it, and in 2004, I entered for the second time the Austrian National Championships, which I won again. And then I was back to the German cycle of the German preliminaries in 2004 with my 4-coin matrix. It wasn't as clean or as tight as it currently is. It took 12 years to get it there, from 2004 to 2016. But I competed with a matrix. Did well. 2005, hit the German Nationals again, got a 2nd place. 2006, I went to Stockholm, Sweden, the F.I.S.M World Championships, called F.I.S.M, and it ranked 7th. I also did a card act and parlor magic stage, and that ranked 4th. And I said, well, at least now I've ranked in the top 10. Not bad. But we're not done yet. So then I asked around and I asked, what are the 2 largest, most important major competitions in the United States? They told me the IBM, International Brotherhood of Magicians, American Nationals, and the SAM, Society of American Magicians, American Nationals. And boom, in 1 year, I hit them both and won prizes at both. I got a 2nd with the Matrix at the SAM, and just to mix it up, I did the card act at the IBM and got the IBM People's Choice Award. Then 2008, I started a decade of television work. That was the first time I was casted with 9 other magicians on a German television show called The Next Uri Geller, in German pronunciation, The Next Uri Geller. And they took 10 mentalists, and we were supposed to be, we're not saying, is it magic? Are we performers? Is it real? No comment. And we did, it was a magic show. It was produced the year before, 2007, on NBC and American television as Phenomenon with Chris Angel. And then we got it in Germany. And that year, because of my language abilities, I performed it in 3 different countries. I did the German, Dutch, and Turkish versions, 3 different countries, same show. And this led into a decade of work that ran from 2008 till now. Like 2018, I just did Penn Teller Fool Us. Now, what happened to the Matrix was I left it alone, and I said, well, I don't know. If I kept playing with it in the following years, maybe it'll get better. So I never stopped performing it. I just kept making little changes over the next decade, right? And then in 2007, I re-entered the German preliminaries, and I did well. 2008, the German Nationals, I performed again, did well. 2009, I skipped the World Championships. The next cycle, 2010, I had the idea for a cups and balls act. I worked with a certain engineer to build the props, and I had a table that produced burning candles, just insane stuff. 2010, I did it at the preliminaries. It got a first. 2011, and I know this is a long list of competition, but as I describe year by year what I did, I want you to remember you can't do this much hands-on work in any field and not learn something. So I just got better with time. In the first few years, I wasn't that good. In the middle of this 20 years, I was just getting good. And in the last few years, I've been told that I've reached a level that some people consider pretty good. All right, so I know it's a long story, but let me bring this to the end. For those of you who actually care, this shows where my magic comes from. You don't learn this in 2 weeks. It doesn't happen overnight. This was 2 decades of relentless and psychotic training at an Asian level. All right, so we are at 2010. I had an act using 10 cups and 10 balls. Insane stuff. Relied on a lot of mechanics. 2011, it was the German Nationals again. It won a first place. 2012, I entered the European Championships, got a third. And then the World Championships, 2011 European Championships, F.I.S.M, got a third. 2012, the World Championships, it got nothing because only the first, second, and third places are award winners, and I ranked at 8th. And yeah, I looked at the act and I thought, well, I guess it's not done yet. If I keep playing with it, maybe it will get better. All right, next cycle, 2013, I didn't even compete. I just took 3 years off. 2014, nothing. 2015, nothing. And after a 3-year break, I came back to the matrix and I thought, what if I write a story around this matrix which tells a story of a martial arts instructor, a sensei like Mr. Miyagi, and his student, real life kid Johnny, who he wanted to learn the magic from me, and I got back into it because of him. And I wrote a script around it. It became like a short film with music, told this emotional story. 2016 preliminaries, first place. 2017 German Nationals, first place. European F.I.S.M, F.I.S.M, European Continental Championships, first place. 2018, last summer, went to the Worlds in South Korea, and it ranked 8th. Then I thought, well, at least it got better the second cycle around. There was a 6-year gap in between. So where I'm at right now in 2019, I just got the confirmation like last week. I was on a waiting list to enter because more competitors than ever and faster than ever have now signed up for the next competition cycle in Germany. Magic, I think largely due to the series Penn Teller Fool Us, it just has reached crazy popularity. A lot of the younger generation between 12 and 25, magic's the coolest thing. They're into magic. A lot of people are contacting me, want to learn magic from me, which is why I've now started the Hayashi Magic Academy and started teaching people. And Johnny, who's now grown, he's taller than me now, over time, because he's being raised by a single mom, it's real life. He's become like a son for me. And the first trick in magic I taught him was the classic cups and balls. I said, work on it for 3 years. After the 3 years, I said, you and I are going to compete together in the next cycle. So I signed us up for the Vorentscheidung, German. The preliminary eliminations will be in 5 weeks. In October 2019, we'll enter this thing together. And basically, I've dusted off or revamped or completely reworked the cups and balls concept after a 6-year break from the last competition cycle, from before the last cycle. And it's now become a 2-man act, which is the Karate Kid Act Part 2, where we go from a master and disciple dynamic, or, you know, a man and boy, to a father and son dynamic, now to a two-man team dynamic. And I'm very excited to present this new version of the act. I call it the Karate Kid 2. Other people will probably just call this the new Cups and Balls act Ryan Hayashi does with his son Johnny. Now, the whole purpose of me telling this story was to give some insight into the really long learning process that went into getting magic to look good, because magic is extremely hard to get to a point where it looks good. Well, everything is, you know, not everybody is the most awesome singer, dancer, soccer player, whatever you want. But in magic, we have the added difficulty that if it doesn't work, people are just not fooled by it, and there's no feeling of magic. So there's no secret recipe. I just had to invest a lot of time, a lot of work, and these 2 decades of conventions around the world. I took notes. After every single competition, I not only made sure I collected the VHS tape or the DVD of the video footage, digitized it, got it all cataloged on computer. I took notes. After every lecture, meeting every, you know, impressive or important speaker in magic, or seeing insane performances that I find online, I'm taking notes. So it's an ongoing process of basically just not sitting still, working on your craft. All right. So if you have any further questions, I think that is pretty much lists my life in the world of magic, long version. Thanks for watching to the end. If you watched this far, I'm Ryan Hayashi, the look, Elon Musk, the voice, Dwayne Johnson, the magic level, Thanos. If you stuck around this long, you deserved a little bit of the epic monologue voice. And I am this nerdy. I do actually talk like this all the time. Feel free to write in the comments if you actually watched to the end and why. And if you have any other questions regarding how to learn magic, take your magic to the next level, I do read all the comments. So go ahead, ask your questions in the comments. I'll be happy to read and reply to them best I can. I'm having a super busy year, but obviously making the attempt to communicate to all you guys here in YouTube world. Thanks a lot for watching, and